Hi, this is Mark Guerrero. This is East LA Music Stories, episode 3. And my guest is Guillermo Garcia, better known as Little Willie G. How you doing, Willie?
Doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about your long career. Obviously, you were the original voice of the Midnighters, and you did many things beyond that. And we're going to get into that. However, I think first we should discuss what happened last Wednesday at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles. You and I were involved in a panel discussion / performance event. And it was really, kind of history making for East LA rock.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, what do you have to say about that in general?
Oh, man, that was cool. I mean, to be invited to be a part of something like that, especially just after the Grammys, their telecasts had just been on, and then to be there at the world-renowned Clive Davis Theater,
Right.
just an amazing thing, Mark.
So I'll just read a description for those, so get an idea what it was. So it says here, earlier this year, the Grammy Museum launched its Songs of Conscience, Sounds of Freedom exhibition, the museum's inaugural exhibition. When first opening in 2008, this exhibition was brought back in 2022 as a revamped retrospective, enhanced with new stories, particularly surrounding the various social movements that have surfaced in recent years and the new and powerful music that has been created because of these movements. So in 2008, my record and song, I made a record called I'm Brown. In 1972, it came out on Capitol Records. I was a solo artist. And in 2008, 2009, this exhibit first came about and my record was in it. So now in 2022, they reintroduced the same exhibit, Songs of Conscience, Sounds of Freedom. And it's a cool exhibit. It's all about, songs that have social impact. There's a lot of like Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie, Jackson Browne, a lot of people like that are in the exhibit. And I was very honored to be added to that exhibit. And so this year they redid it and decided to do this event that we're talking about. And as far as the event, this is what they say about that. In conjunction with the UCLA Chicano Studies Research Center, in partnership with the UCLA Chicano Studies Research Center, and in conjunction with the Grammy Museum's Songs of Conscience, Sounds of Freedom exhibition, the Grammy Museum is thrilled to host a panel discussion featuring musicians Mark Guerrero, Little Willie G, and at this point we hadn't added great vocalist Jerry Gonzalez, female vocalist from East LA, and manager-producer Art Brambilla, along with UCLA's Dr. Veronica Terriquez and moderator Dr. Melissa Hidalgo. And it says here, the panel will discuss topics including the history of the Chicano movement, the music tied to the music, and the personal narratives of the artists from East LA as featured in the exhibition. Following the panel discussion, there will be a performance from the artists. And so that's what the thing was about. So it wasn't just about music from East LA, it was about the Chicano movement.
Sure.
And the political situation. So it was a historic event, and we had the panel discussion first, a Q&A, and then our performance. So what are kind of your highlights or your memories of the event?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the panel discussion because we were able to hear different perspectives of what was going on at the time. And as a artist, composer, much of what we experienced led to music, led to songs about the movement and things that were going on. So I thought it was really well put together. And the audience was just amazing. Their questions, every question we received had some validity to it. It wasn't just off the cuff. It really contributed to the whole overall atmosphere of the discussion and the performance.
What was very interesting and great for us was we all got to kind of explain what we went through as Chicanos in the music industry And we did it without whining about it. We were just basically saying, like me, they wanted me to change my name because it was too, Latino.
Yeah.
They were asking my manager, Art Brambilla, well, why is this Chicano, why is this Mexican singing country rock? They couldn't understand. They don't see us as quite American, And
Right.
so it's been our plight as Chicanos, as musicians and artists, that the record industry just sees us as, they don't know what we are, and they don't think we're quite national, and they don't think we're quite American, and they want to put us in the Latin division. So all of us, Jerry had her story. Jerry Gonzalez said when she was with her major label in the 80s, they said, well, you don't sound black enough and you don't sound white enough.
It's weird. It's weird. It's another interesting thing was, I think our youth, we were like oblivious to a lot of that stuff because we were just having fun. We were making music and having fun, and a lot of times we didn't even know, to be honest with you, that we were being contemporary about the stuff we were writing about. I didn't know we were garage punk.
That's right. Until 20 years later, we were cool.
Yeah.
But we touched on the idea that we didn't feel any racism for the longest time because we were insulated in East LA. We were
Right.
playing this circuit, and most of us were Chicanos.
Mhm.
And so therefore, we didn't even think about that. It wasn't until we went to the West Side, it was like, wait a minute, some of these audience would call Little Ray a beaner or the
Mhm.
Midnighters.
Yeah.
We were at the Palladium, right?
Yeah, they want to know if we brought them any tacos or burritos.
Yeah,
We're like, wish we'd have known.
right. In my first episode, I interviewed Anthony Beret of the Emeralds, and he said that one time they went to play at the Ambassador Hotel, and when the people that hired them realized they were Mexicans, they were Chicanos, they said, well, you can't play here. And they paid them to not play.
Wow. Wow.
So that's when we felt it, when we left our little bubble.
So they got paid, they got
Paid to get out of
slapped,
there.
they got slapped in the face, but they got paid for it.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So we got to air that grievance. And in reality, we're the same, not just in the music industry, but in society. As I mentioned in my dad's lyric, that thing that, we're
Yeah.
not quite Mexican enough in Mexico, and we're not quite American enough here.
Yeah.
And so we only have each other, and we have this niche market and this, and so what were the reality?
But we had to keep forging ahead,
Yeah.
And thank God for the circuit that we did have and some of the promoters. And then eventually we were able to cross some of those barriers, right? When Casey Kasem and Sam Riddle and B. Mitchell Reed and Dave Hall, those guys kind of took us under their wing and started.
Dick Moreland.
Yeah, Dick Moreland. He was a program director at Caroline. They actually, opened up a lot of doors for us to perform with the Beach Boys and the Band Without a Name, which a lot of people didn't know who they were, but they were an amazing band.
That's why I'm so proud that so many East LA groups and Chicano groups did get hit records. They did break through those barriers,
Yeah.
and many of us. And that's kind of what spurred me on to do my website, because I wanted a place where people could see what we did accomplish against the odds. And it's
Yeah,
tremendous.
great history. It's a great catalog of our history, and just once again, we had some opportunities that were, what do you say, for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Right. We were the first to maybe crack some barriers. I think we kind of discussed that. Art Brambilla brought up mostly industry prejudices, right? And yet in the midst of that, for us anyway, mid 60s, there were glimmers of hope. There was a period for us where we were being groomed by RCA. They were thinking of signing us. And so what they did is they signed us to a string of concerts opening up for Jose Feliciano, of all people, right? And so they're, Jose Feliciano, Puerto Riqueño, but here we were as well. And he was like a major star at the time. And so there was that. And we didn't get signed. We did not get signed with RCA. There's several stories behind why that didn't happen, but it provoked us to start our own record label, Whittier Records. So I think that was like something that was cool. We kind of drew from Eddie Davis and Bob Keane, these guys that were sort of promoting the Chicanos on their labels. And man, we had some pretty good success with that. We didn't get into that very much on the panel discussion, but there's hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah, right.
But it was an interesting move for us.
Yeah.
We didn't have anybody looking over our shoulder telling us what we couldn't do, which was kind of cool. It was a freedom there.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's an obstacle, you build your own road, right?
Exactly. We used to say, we'll build that bridge when we come to it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. I really believe we did that. We built a lot of bridges that people told us were impossible to do. We did some great shows, the Rose Bowl with the Turtles, Hermits, the Love and Spoonful, Bobby Fuller 4. Those were like out of the box.
Did a lot of television shows, especially local shebang.
Yeah. Yeah. 9th Street West, Hollywood A Go-Go, Hullabaloo.
That was national, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was national.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So there was a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. So it was a wonderful panel discussion, and then the show. What do you think about the show?
Yeah, that was cool. I didn't know. I was kind of torn as to what I was going to sing, right? What I was going to do, especially when Dr. Hidalgo said, "All right, let's hear some of those songs that made you that feria." And I opted to do a couple of songs that I had been sitting on for several decades. One of them was 52 years old, Silver Dollar Nightmare.
Wow.
It was a song I wrote right after the moratorium when Ruben Salazar got assassinated. I wrote that song and it was just lyrics. I had no music to it until maybe 10, 12 years ago. My son Jacob did a bunch of tracks for me, just short stuff to kind of spark some creative juices to write for a project that we were considering. And there was this one track he did, man, and it was so haunting. I said, I have the perfect lyrics for that. And he wasn't quite aware of the Ruben Salazar situation yet, but when he heard the lyrics, he started doing research on it and moratorium. And this kind of sparked his orgullo, so to speak, about being a Chicano and that. And he's actually the one, there's a line in the song that says, and no, it didn't stop that day in 1970. Thomas Wilson couldn't feel my people's pain. Oh no, that ugly day. He added that line, the ending line, to the song. And so I thought that was a perfect thing. I did it as kind of a really dark song. I had submitted it over the last 10 years to several documentaries about Ruben Salazar, and they turned it down because it was too dark. And I says, no, it's more truthful than dark, Yeah. So those are kind of the things. And then a little lighter song that I did was a song called Across the Bridge in East LA.
When was that written?
I wrote that song 25 years ago, maybe. And I was just sitting around thinking about, the neighborhood and the sounds of the neighborhood, what to write for the project that we started several years ago called Forgotten Village. And I started thinking about the West Side folks that would come to East LA and support of the South Central folks that would drive up Alameda, to 6th Street, turn right. 6th Street becomes Whittier Boulevard, and come into Boyle Heights and into East LA, Pico Rivera, Montebello, the Beverly Hills of East LA.
Monterey Park too is kind of
Yeah, Monterey Park is especially. I used to go there and the houses were so big, I thought they were apartment complexes. But that song was sparked by that, just thinking about the drive and myself. I would drive up Alameda to 6th Street and from South Central, from 43rd and Alameda, where I lived, my folks lived, and drive across the bridge to East LA.
I just saw a thing on YouTube about the new 6th Street Bridge that they're building. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I like the older one better.
Yeah.
I didn't think they could have refurbished it, I think. And
I think what happened, they became unearthquake safe, so they had to.
That's what
they could have rebuilt it. What do you think?
That's what they said. Unless you were there the first day, the big crane was there with the big old steel ball, you know, that thing just went ting, 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 ting. And the developers kind of looked at each other and you could almost read their lips. Gee, I think it's a little stronger than we thought.
They used to make them good back then.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, you know, the things they do for the sake of progress.
Right. But that was a very cool
Chavez
song.
Ravine.
Very cool song. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people were expecting you to sing, I Can Only Give You Love.
That or Dreaming Casually, which, you know, I thought about. I said, oh,
Midnighter songs.
Knock them out, you know.
Yeah. You know, but this was more apropos to the event, the ones you chose.
I think so. You know, I wanted to speak to, you know, the culture of our music and the areas geographically pertaining to our experiences growing up. And so I thought both songs were fitting.
Yeah.
The sounds of East LA, amen, and the Chicano movement as well.
That's right.
You know, we lost a powerful spokesperson that day.
Oh, definitely. And he was criticizing the LAPD, and a lot of people.
Yeah, he was
not an accident
for us. Little different variant, you know, than Cesar Chavez, you know, which another song we wrote with the help of Bruce Morgan's mom.
Oh,
you know, we weren't writing songs, political statements at all there in the early 60s. And we did that. Didn't get a lot of notoriety, but it opened up our minds. You know, we started becoming a little bit more conscientious about who we were and how things had been politicized for us.
Anyway, it was a great segment that you did. Those are great songs that you selected.
You.
Then I did my Ann Brown song.
Yeah.
And then I backed up Jerry on a song I wrote for her called Mijita.
Yeah, beautiful.
Recording, and she sang her tail off as usual. And then the trio Los Lobos, backed Jerry on an Art Brambilla song from his Si Se Puede album in support of the United Farm Workers and Cesar Chavez. And that fit into the program very well.
Yeah, amazing.
And then we did that. Then I did my dad's song, his Chicano Pride song called El Chicano in Spanish, but it really nailed what it is to be a Chicano. Yeah. And got the crowd whooping and hollering. Those
songs are still very contemporary. I think they would fly today, you know, over mainstream radio, TV.
And then we did the old La Bamba finale, which went great with everybody on stage. And, you know, kind of reminiscent of when we did it with the Trini Lopez special, but we'll bring that up later.
Yeah.
But the other beautiful thing about the show that I loved is it was an acoustic show. You know, we didn't have, you know, the Willie G band and my band and kinds of drums and stuff. The whole idea was just acoustic guitars. You had the great guitar player, Bobby Robles, backing you out on your songs. I had my old guitar player for my band, Tango, and all my records in the early 70s. John Valenzuela backed me on Ann Brown. And Rick Reyes played bass from the trio. Los Lobos came and did it on the song. Yeah. And then the trio. So everything was acoustic. There was no electric anything. So
it was very intimate.
It was intimate, and you could hear every word because it was about the songs and the lyrics. So it was quite a show. And I thought, man, it'd be good if we could do that show again sometime.
Yeah.
And maybe add more songs. But it's a beautiful show. It's intimate for like theaters, you know. It'd be great.
There's so much left to be said, so much more to be said that we should try to spearhead that, Mark.
Okay, let's talk about that. So that was that. So now let's turn the clock all the way back, you know, more than a half a century, back to the 60s. And, you know, the Midnighters, and as the Midnighters, before they were the Midnighters, they were the Gentiles. Right. Want to go back to that and how it all happened?
Yeah. I had just graduated from 8th grade, and I thought I was going to go to Cathedral High School because my oldest brother was a student at Cathedral. Salesian was a relatively new school, started in 1958.
Catholic school?
Yes, those are Catholic schools. And my brother Charlie was the first class there in 1958. And my assumption was Cathedral or Jefferson High School, where my dad graduated from. Plus, you know, all the cool cats came from Jefferson, you know, Charles Mingus, Don Julian, Jesse Belvin.
Wow.
Those guys they were my neighbors, actually. Those guys were neighbors.
Wow.
Tony Allen, Etta James, when she came out west. And so that was my idea. I wanted to go to Jefferson. And I says, worst case scenario, I'll go to Cathedral. But my dad said, you're not going to Jeff and you're not going to go to Cathedral. You're going to go to Salesian because your brother's there and he'll be your ride to school for 2 years and you'll be 16 and you'll get your license. You'll have your own car. Then you can do whatever you want. So that was my dad's take on it. And actually, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because in the spring, it was May, in the spring of 1960, when I was prepping to go to Salesian, my brother was still playing baseball and they would practice at Evergreen Playground, right there on 4th and Evergreen. And so I'd go with him. And this particular Sunday, a couple girls that were like groupies of the baseball team, they knew I liked to sing. And one of them was a girlfriend to the boxer, Roy De La Fuente, who was also a Salesian kid. The De La Fuente brothers were big. They did Kid Galahad with Elvis Presley, the movie, and they boxed with them. But anyway, they're the ones that came and said there was a band auditioning singers on Downey Road. And it was a great opportunity for me to go if I wanted to. So they took me down there and that's how I got the gig. And we didn't really have a name yet. The band was just two brothers, a cousin, and a kid from Boyle Heights, Jerry Ainsworth. He wasn't even a Chicano, he was an Orthodox Russian Jew. And it was a backyard family party. It was a baptismal. And so walking down the driveway and the music, we could hear the music in the backyard and it was like drawing us in like a vacuum, like a musical vacuum. And there was this cool looking guy coming from the backyard, right, with his shades on, and he had this fine girl on his arm. And he walked past me and he kind of looked down at me, you know, like, what are you doing here, right? And Irene and Lupe, they both grabbed me by the arms and I stuck my chest out. I'm walking in with two chicks. So they introduced me to Benny Ceballos, who was the leader of the band. And Benny looked at me and he just asked me, did I know any boleros? Which I thought was a kind of an odd question. But I answered, I said, sure, of course. And he said, which ones? And he says, so I said, Creí, Cerca de Mar, Gema, Sabor a mí, all the usuals, La Barca, Reloj. And the rest of the band members leaned in and said, Waki. And that started my journey into music. Of course, we did a bunch of other stuff. We did Big Joe Turner stuff and Little Richard and Elvis songs and whatnot.
How old are you at that point?
Man, I had just turned I was going to turn 14 years old.
Wow.
I was 13, a month away from becoming 14 years old.
And they were older than you?
Oh yeah, they were older than me by several years. I think in age, Raul Ceballos, the guitar player, and the drummer, they were probably 16, 17.
At that time, that was way older. It felt like they were men or something. You know?
Yeah, they were young men. And anyway, after the party, you know, I had to get back to the park, but the guys really liked it, and they said something that I found really odd and interesting. They said that everybody that had auditioned, they had gone through maybe a half a dozen, 8 singers throughout the course of the afternoon before I got there, didn't want to sing Mexican music. That's what they called it back then. They didn't want to sing Mexican music. And, you know, so, you know, on my way home, I thought, wow, you know, we didn't even do La Bamba. We should have done La Bamba because Richie Valens had made that a big hit, right? But everybody was more interested into doing rock and roll and almost rockabilly stuff too. You know, Eddie Cochran stuff and Gene Vincent, that kind of stuff was really popular there, late 50s, early 60s. And so, but I got the gig, you know, and it was more than a band, you know, because we had a car club too. Benny and Raul, he was the president of the Stockers Car Club.
I remember them, yeah.
So I not only got into a band, I actually got into a car club at the same time. It was really cool.
So that the name, tell the story about the first name.
Oh yeah, so we needed a name for the band. We didn't have a name for the band yet. Benny would pick me up. He would pick me up from work on Wednesdays. He worked in downtown off of 6th and Wall, in the textile business, the garment district. He would pick me up. I lived on 43rd and Alameda, between Long Beach Avenue and Alameda. And he would pick me up after work. And then we immediately would go pick up the drummer in Boyle Heights. And Jerry's dad was a Orthodox Russian Jew rabbi. He was an actual rabbi. We would see him sometimes in his full regalia. Every Wednesday, without fail, he would walk Jerry out of the house halfway through the front yard, yelling at him, "Jerry, what are you doing? What's the matter with you hanging around with those Gentiles? They're unclean." And then he would turn around and walk back into the house. And we were like, we didn't even know what a Gentile was, right? We did.
It sounded cool.
It did, because we started thinking, you know, the gents, right? Or maybe he meant genteel, you know. We didn't know. But as a dig to his old man, you know, we just off the cuff, we said, that's our name, the Gentiles. And Jerry would always shake his head, you know, and we didn't even ask him, what does it mean? What's wrong with your old man? You know, we take baths. We're not unclean.
And you kept that name for a little while, right? A few months.
Yeah, we kept it, man, for almost a year or two. We changed it the weekend of February 14th, 1962. So we kept that name for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And we changed our name to Benny and the Midnighters, dropping the GH. We had already dropped the GH because we dug Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, you know, and we used to do There's a Thrill Upon a Hill, and He Had a Baby, those race songs, race records. Mm-hmm. Then eventually, when Benny got married and left the group, and we got Benny Lopez into the band, and he's the one, he gave the band personality. Benny Lopez was a great musician, came from Johnny and the Crowns.
Was it Johnny Gamboa?
Johnny Gamboa, and he was like one of our mentors, man. He had the band, you know. The Armenta Brothers were another great band.
Played at Lourd's Church.
Yeah, every first Friday they were there, so those guys were like mentors to us, you know. And then of course Max Ubalas and the Romancers, and some bands from South Central, Richard and the Emeralds. They were the first Emeralds. Richard and the Emeralds and the Utmost Band. Oh. Yeah, those guys were from South Central, but they were playing the East LA circuit, you know. And they had a black brother, Sonny. I don't remember Sonny's last name, but he was a singer. And eventually he had an accident playing with a gun, and he shot himself. And he lived, he survived it, but he became blind, you know. But he was a great singer, he's a great front man, and those guys were amazing. And they kind of introduced us from East LA. I still grew up in South Central, but they introduced us, you know, to a lot of the great bands that were coming through town. Jimmy Reed, Bobby Blue Bland, you know, uh, God, just so many of the great groups. When the Drifters would come and stuff like that, they would always play at the 5-4 Ballroom or the Old Dixie. If you remember
Remember the old Dixie, we played
Ballroom,
that.
right? That was sort of a staple for them. The Chitlin Circuit, they called it. And then eventually this club that converted the Lido Theater in Southgate, they converted to the Southgate Palace. And that became a showroom, man, for Big Joe Turner and Bobby Blue Band. The La La Wilson Band, big band, 22-piece orchestra.
And you would go see these shows?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. You know, I mean, they were there, right? And there was no age limit yet, you know, no 21 or over to go into a bar. You know, that came much later. But so we could go in and out of those places, you know, as long as we behaved.
Yeah. So one of the lucky things about you going to Salesian was Bill Taggart and the band.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that was amazing. I loved music, and my brother was a star athlete at Salesian. So the football team would have their practices right there on the little field, which is now a really beautiful football stadium at Salesian. But the band room was right there. And of course, the band rehearsed after school, really, what they call it, eighth period, from eighth period on until 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, the school band. And so in between plays or whenever I could, I would sneak off the field and I'd go sit in the band room and listen to this band and notice that there was several musicians from my age group, from my class in the band. Joe Farfan, Charlie Luaris, God, just so many other guys. Tony Garcia, great sax player, and another Tony Garcia, great trumpet player, Frank Guzman. These guys were all in the band. Johnny Gamboa was in the band, and just struck up friendship with a lot of those guys. Romeo Prado was one of them, and that was it. Just struck up, and they were in bands already. So whenever Johnny and the Crowds were playing somewhere, you know, my brother would take me with him, you know, reluctantly sometimes, but my dad was, if you're going to go, you got to take your little brother with you, you know. So I would tag along, and man, I just got the bug, you know. I got the bug early, really. My big brother, Frank Weddle, he was a guitar player, and he had a little trio, and he actually did youth intervention, I'll call it. At a young age, we hustled. We sold newspapers and shine shoes, and walked in the alley a lot, you know, collecting bottles and stuff like that. And then, you know, the kids in the neighborhood, right? You know, we do some little troublemakers, you know. But Mrs. Pre caught me smoking in the alley with the guys, and she drugged me home one day by my ear. It's interesting growing up, you know, there's that term, takes a village. Well, all the neighbors, you know, we knew each other. We were close. We knew their kids, their grandkids. We ate dinner with them. You know, if we were playing in their yard when it was dinner time, they invited us to dinner. But
back there, they didn't call that childhood abuse, right? When they got
no, they had permission. They actually had permission from our parents, right? So she drugged me home, and she knocked on the door, you know, and my brother answered the door, and she says, "Where's Frank and Anna?" And my brother said, "Well, they're not here right now." So she began to tell him what I was doing, right? And my brother told her, "Okay, I'll let my parents know." Like hoping that she wouldn't come back, right? And tell him. So immediately he took me into the bedroom and he told me, "You know, you got to stop doing stuff like that." You know, he goes, the worst part is, you know, if Dad finds out, you know, he's gonna whip you, you know. And you know why he's gonna whip you? And I would say, "For smoking?" He goes, "No, because you got caught."
No, geez.
That's what he told me, right? So he kind of like said, you got to sharpen up. If you're going to be doing stuff like that, you can't, you know, and he says, and you shouldn't be doing it anyway, right? And he says, all right, well, I got you here. He goes, I need you to sing this song. You know it. I can't play and sing at the same time. And I looked at him because I hear him playing and singing all the time, right? And it was a song by Lee Andrew and the Hearts called Try the Impossible. Try the impossible. Try to understand the way I feel about you, right? And now that's how I sang it. And I really enjoyed it, right? And so I'd come home every day now after school. I wouldn't walk through the alley. I'd come home hoping that I would find him in the bedroom practicing. And so I learned a lot from my brother in those things. He taught me what key to, you know, he says, you got to respect musicians. You got to know what key you play in. You got to know the changes to songs, you know. He says, and it'll help if you play an instrument. He gave me my first guitar. But that helped me tremendously, bro, in all around, especially the thing about respecting musicians.
Right.
Yeah.
So getting back to Taggart, so he was quite a musician himself, and then he started those rock and roll shows, and talk about all that.
Yeah, he came from Oklahoma, and when the school just started, it started, like I say, in 1958, and they were hiring teachers. And so he brought his resume and got hired as a music teacher. And Bill Taggart, Prof, we called him, was a very interesting guy, man. Because he was more than a teacher, you know. He was a social worker, so to speak, you know, because he took an interest in our lives, our personal lives. He'd come to our homes, you know, meet our parents, and really took an interest in us. Most school bands are boring. You know, you're learning program stuff, you know, whatever the curriculum demands. And so Taggart noticed that a lot of the guys, great musicians were kind of reluctant. I mean, they'd play it, but they weren't really giving it their best, right? So he would ask them, okay, what kind of music do you like? Who do you listen to? And he'd be like blown away when, you know, a lot of guys say Stan Kenton, you know, the big band stuff, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, you know? So he started doing arrangements, you know, Duke Ellington stuff. And then he did something. Every high school has a pep band, right? And this is maybe 8 or 9 musicians, trumpet, trombone, maybe a sax, you know, and a drum line, right? And he did Dixieland. He introduced the guys to Dixieland, right? And so it was like that. And then he noticed that there was little bands. Guys had little bands, garage bands or whatnot. And Johnny had a full-blown orchestra, a small orchestra. And so he got interested. He would go around to the dances and hear them play and that. And then we had the Gentiles, and he caught us playing in a bar, the Paradise on Atlantic and Olympic. Just a bar, bro, a neighborhood bar. And we saw him come in and sit at the bar and have a beer, and he never looked over at us. And we were like playing and with our backs almost to the audience, right? Because we didn't want him to see us. When we turned around, he was gone, right? He must have stayed for maybe 3 or 4 songs, drank his beer and left. And we just went, sigh of relief, right? But the next day at school, he called us into the office. Right? He put the fear of God in us. You know, he said, what are you guys doing playing in those bars, those dives? And she says, you know, if your parents find out you're doing stuff like that, they're going to pull you out of the music department. They're going to take away your instruments, right? And we, what? You know, we never looked at it like that, right? And so anyway, he put the fear of God in us, but it provoked him to do something. He started the Salesian rock and roll shows. And what he would do is he went over to Lourdes High School, a parochial school, little school there on 3rd Street, 3rd and Rowan. And they had this little auditorium there. And so he did the first Salesian rock and roll show there. And he opened it up, not just to guys from Salesian who had a band, but he opened it up to anybody who had a band in East LA, right? And I think the first show was almost like an audition because he never auditioned anybody for it. You know, they were available. He put them on the show, and he gave us a platform. And we started looking forward to grooming ourselves towards that. And then he did a number of things. Well, we had 2 shows there at Lourdes and quickly maxed out that little auditorium. And in 1963, he took it to East LA College, right? I think it's coded for 2,000, that auditorium will seat 2,000. We maxed it out to over 2,500 screaming high schoolers. You know,
and that famous rising stage, the regular stationary stage,
yeah,
rising hydraulic.
two stages, right? The opening band would open on the main stage, and then while the curtains were closing and that band was taking their bows, right? The band on the rising stage, the elevated stage, was coming up.
Place went crazy.
Oh, it was an amazing visual thing too, right?
And well, they were playing somebody else setting up on the other stage behind
Yeah,
there. So
yeah, it was great. It was a great thing. It kept the show going, and man, Sunday afternoon turned into a full Sunday, you know.
yeah.
For
I was
for
at that first rock and roll show. I was at the first one at East LA College when the Johnny Gamboa played. I think the
Right.
Vesuvians,
uh-huh.
and you know,
Yeah.
I still have the bill, but I remember it very vividly. You know,
One of the things too that he did that was very insightful, Mark, he recorded those shows.
oh, yes.
Yeah, he hooked up with somebody, you know, and they had put up all these ambience mics and stuff, and he recorded those shows, you know. And I know who has all the tapes. You know, I mean, there's a few records. I think there's 3 albums, possibly 4 that were released. Right? They're hard to get, hard to find, but it's just a fraction of the performances. Maybe 1 song, 2 songs. If you're really good, you got 3 or 4 songs on it.
And did you guys play the first one, the Midnighters? The first one
We
at
did.
Salesian?
Benny and the
First one at East LA
Midnighters.
College.
We did. And the one song that was featured on that was Little Ray. I introduced Mr. Shake, Shout, and Soul, Little Ray, with a little thing called For Your Love. And he sang the song For Your Love, the Italian.
Let's talk about Little Ray Jimenez, man.
Yeah,
Great,
Little
great
Ray.
singer, great performer.
Phenom, yeah. I was
And,
fortunate to meet him when he first moved to Los Angeles. And
Well, that takes me to the subject of, I mentioned to you backstage at the Grammys the other day that I saw a show with the Midnighters in 1964 at St. Alfonso's Hall, where we all later played. And it was you and Little Ray were both in the Midnighters at the same time.
right.
Like the 2 best, you know, male singers in the same band, and with the Midnighters. And I remember I was about 14 or 15 in the crowd, and you guys opened with your theme song "Green Onions" by Booker T and the MGs, and the curtain opens down, 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 and the guys, you all had masks on, like Lone Ranger masks.
Yeah.
What color were they? Were they green?
Well, those we had glitter. We actually put glitter on them. The first time we ever did it, they were just black.
Okay.
Lone Ranger.
Like
We
the
had
Lone
black
Ranger, yeah.
tuxedos.
But
We wore
man,
black
did it make
tuxedos.
for a dramatic opening? You know, the girls
Yeah.
screaming, and there you guys were, and it was incredible. And then you had Bobby Cochran on guitar.
Yeah.
Bobby Cochran's nephew, is it?
Nephew, yes, yeah. His parents owned a recording studio in Cudahy. And I think Bobby was 15 when I met him. No, 13. I was 15. I was 15 years old when I met Bobby Cochran. Danny Lamont was our drummer then. We're still the Gentiles.
Not at this show, not the show that I saw you.
No, we were already the Midnighters. Yeah. But that's Bobby Cochran's parents had a recording studio in Cudahy, and that's where I met Bobby through Danny Lamont.
And Bobby Cochran went on to have a very nice career, played with Bobby in the Midnights with Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
I've met him. I know him a bit. I've been around. We've gone to a few things.
Yeah,
He
he's
knows my
still
lawyer.
around.
We went to a couple of events recently. Great guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. Has a home here and a home in Nashville.
And his memories of the Midnighters are just so special.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, he was there, man. His parents were very supportive too of the group. You
And
know,
he was the only Caucasian in the band.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, because Jerry Ainsworth wasn't with us anymore.
Yeah.
He got married and moved on. But yeah, he was the only Caucasian. The amazing.
Amongst all these Chicanos, you had like this rockabilly blonde dude with a guitar like.
Which was cool because the first time I heard him play was there at the studio during a break. They were recording Joe Maphis. Joe Maphis was doing a session there, and in between takes, Bobby was over in the corner. He was a session player on those sessions, and he was playing Miserlou by Dick Dale.
Yeah, that was big at the time.
And I looked at Danny and I went, the missing element, surf, in our band. And so, yeah, he joined up. And he brought that. And of course, the Eddie Cochran songs, Summertime Blues and Come On, Everybody.
Right.
We started doing stuff like that. Featuring
20 Flight Rock. Did you do 20 Flight Rock?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff.
So at that same show was the Jaguars with the Salas Brothers. And that was the first time I saw the Salas Brothers. And Steve was about 11 and Rudy was about 13. And they were already polished professionals singing great.
Interesting. I played Pop Warner football with them.
Really?
Yeah, Downey Playground in Lincoln Heights. Yeah, that's where I met them. And then, conversation, switched to music and we became friends. And at that early age, I learned a lot from them as well. They were way ahead of the curve.
And like 10 years later, they formed Guerrero, which had an hit eventually in the 80s.
Yeah, their first album's phenomenal.
Oh, that's the best album, hands down. Incredible.
Steve Salas played bass on practically all of those songs.
1972.
Yeah.
Great album.
David Torres, another great musician who's gone on, rest in peace, as well as Rudy and Steve.
Yeah, and they passed
Great
away.
contributors.
Both of them passed away in the last year or so, very tragically. But
it's a heavy hit.
Great artists.
Yeah.
So getting back to the rock and roll show, so you guys played several of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did 4 of them, I believe. We did the first one in 60. Well, I take that back. It was the ones at Lourdes, which were in 1962, early 62, and then another one in 62. Then in 63, Prof moved it over to East LA College. And then in 1964, October 17th, I believe it was, or 18th, we recorded Land of a Thousand Dances.
Yeah, let's hear that story.
Okay.
How that happened.
It wasn't unusual. We backed up singing groups, and Cannibal and the Headhunters were one of them. Frankie and I were really good friends. We met at a track meet at Jackson High School.
Jackson.
Yeah. He was going to Jackson, and I was going to Salesian. I was running cross country in the 440. And so I had to use the bathroom at a track meet, right? So I ran to the bathroom real quick, and I'm hearing these guys singing in the bathroom, right? And man, I got a track meet. I got to get back out there, right? But I'm there, I'm listening to these guys like, man, and we're exchanging phone numbers and talking and that. And so I went back, ran my track meet. And afterwards, I hooked up again with Frankie and started talking and stuff, and we became friends. And he didn't have the Headhunters yet. He was the lead singer for the Royal Jesters.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Yeah, and he was the lead singer for that band, right? And they were always performing at the Paramount Ballroom, right? And that was one of my dreams, to be able to sing at the Paramount Ballroom.
You guys did, right, obviously?
Yeah. Actually, I got a gig there. Johnny J, I was in the Gentiles, but we were playing downstairs at Tardeadas on Sundays, the Gentiles. There was another little bar and little restaurant downstairs. And so after the Tardeada, I'd run upstairs and get a seat to catch the main shows on Sunday night, where Frankie was playing and the Romancers and the Richard and the Emeralds and those kind of bands. The Sister.
And Stevie Wonder, young Stevie Wonder. Even
Stevie Wonder. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And so,
Stevie Wonder.
Anyway, Frankie and I, we became good friends. And then eventually he hooked up with with Yo-Yo and Rabbit and Scar, right? Guys from the Ramona Projects. And so anyway, they're doing gigs and they need a band to back them up. And we were there, right? And we rehearsed with them to do the Salesian Rock and Roll Show. And so we're all excited. We did our set and we're done. We're done with our set and we're still playing a little bit, you know, waiting for the stage to start going down, and the stage isn't going down, right? And we're looking at Prophet saying, keep going. They're not here, right?
Who's not? You got to tell who it was.
Cannibal and the Headhunters.
And Little Ray
Yeah.
too, right?
And Little Ray hadn't arrived either.
Were they in the same cars? I think they were.
We were on the, yeah, well, I think they drove up to Fresno to do the Rainbow Ballroom in Fresno, and they got stuck in the fog. They couldn't come over the grapevine. So we didn't have anything else prepared. And we looked at Benny, the leader, Benny Lopez, and he said, let's do their set. And we did. And Land of a Thousand Dances was one of the songs in their set.
And it was recorded.
And it was recorded. And our manager, I don't know how he talked Prof out of giving up the tape, but
Eddie Torres
talked him out of giving him the tape. And he took it down, got it mastered and printed up. And the next thing I know, we're on the radio. And we had told Cannibal when they came back, you know, that we did their show, and not to be surprised. And we had already known, they had been in the studio already with Billy Watson and Andy Tesso.
Rudy Valona was there too. The Blendels were on it too. So
that's right. And they had already recorded the track. Yeah. They just needed to put their vocals on it. And we used to laugh about it later on because we say, you know, maybe if that hadn't happened.
Yeah.
You know, because our fan base, it created this little, they were both calling the radio stations, you know, and eventually, you know, theirs was a superior recording.
Well, theirs went like top 20 or something, but yours got like 68 nationally.
60, something like that.
It did well.
Yeah.
It wasn't recorded with just a couple of mics. It wasn't, you know, two track.
And it was live. There was an element of excitement, you know, about our record. But we used to crack up about that because we continued backing them up. We said, we're going to do your version or our version. and of course, they got to New York before we did. We had all planned to go to New York together and maybe back them up, you know, on their shows. And I think they went out a week or two before we did. And I think we made it as far as New Orleans because we were driving. And then we heard that they had scored the Motown Review. They were on the Motown Review. So they weren't even going to be in New York when we got there. So who's going to show us around? Who's going to help us, right? And so we reluctantly turned around and started coming back, which was pretty cool anyway, because we picked up a bunch of gigs along the way there in the Gulf states, and then along El Paso, Alamogordo, Las Cruces. You know, it's pretty cool. And I heard the town I live in on a little low-powered AM station out in the wilderness, out in the highway somewhere, where you only got these guys for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then you would lose the signal. But I faintly heard the town I live in and Sad Girl on those power stations, and did some investigating and found out that they were available on 45 at Dolphins of Hollywood. And, you know,
was that Huggy Boy?
To the band.
Huggy Boy?
No, Huggy Boy wasn't there. He was at Flash Records
but
at that
at
time.
some point he was at Dolphins though too.
Oh yeah, he started off at Dolphins of Hollywood. They had a radio booth right there. They had a recording studio there as well. And before Dutone, which was a little further south on Central Avenue, those places recorded, you know, Jesse Balvin and Don Julian. Don Julian and the Meadowlarks, right?
They would
Tony
play at the
Allen.
big union too, and the
Yeah.
Olympics and all these people.
Yeah, yeah. They used to rehearse at Tony Allen's grandmother's house across the tracks from where I lived. I used to sneak in the kitchen door while they were rehearsing and shine their shoes. And occasionally you would find Richard Berry and Jesse Balvin.
Richard Berry wrote Louie Louie.
Yeah, and he actually he sang with Don Julian and the Meadowlarks for a long time. So did Jesse, and they would switch off the Shields. You know, You Cheated.
Oh,
Jesse was a background singer in that band as well, in that vocal group. They would just change coats. They'd go backstage, they would change coats and then come out, you know?
You cheated, you lied, you said that you loved me.
You said that you loved me. Yeah.
I mean, I still love those early doo-wop songs like There's a Moon Out Tonight.
Yeah.
I still love that.
Yeah.
In the Still of the Night.
Yeah.
Those oldies but goodies, Caesar and the Romans. I mean, Duke of Earl. I still love
Duke of Earl, my God. And then Memories of Almonte. Right? Right? That was the Penguins, I believe.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, you know who wrote that, right?
Which one?
Memories of Almonte.
No, I remember there's an album called Memories of Almonte. Was it
That was Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau. Yeah, Memories of Almonte. That album is just, it's great.
And Art LaBelle's still around. He's about 95 years old. Art LaBelle's still.
Yeah, and sharp as a pistol.
I saw him a few years ago. I sat in with El Chicano out here in Palm Springs, and he was the promoter. He's about 4'10" or something.
Yeah.
And this little 95-year-old guy, and he still looks healthy. And
yeah, still doing concerts, emceeing.
Still on the radio.
Still on the radio, sharp as a tack. I mentioned he keeps us in touch with a lot of our family members, you know, through his dedication segments. But the song Memories of Almonte was written by Frank Zappa.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He had a connection to a lot of the East LA groups, you know.
That's right.
He worked with Ronnie the Casuals, Little Ray.
Yep.
Not Little Ray, I'm not sure about Little Ray. Ronnie the Casuals for sure.
He had a hand in Caesar and the Romans. What was the song? Caesar and the Romans.
Those oldies but goodies.
Yeah.
I love that record.
Frank Zappa. And catch this. The Heartbreakers, their big hit,
Cradle Rock.
Cradle Rock. He wrote the flip side. Every time I see you, whenever you walk by, I want to hold you. Yeah. Frank Zappa.
He was into that stuff.
It's a neighborhood. Grew up in in the San Gabriel Valley, and then made too much noise in the garage, and he bought a little storefront in Pomona.
Yeah.
He turned it into a little studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank.
And how about Arthur Lee? Remember the later of Love? He helped Little Ray.
Yeah.
He wrote the flip side of Little Ray. I've Been Trying.
Yeah.
Great record.
Excellent song. That song should have been a hit.
And flip side of I Who Have Nothing. I love Ray's
Right.
version.
That should have been a bigger hit for Ray. But I've been trying. I mean,
I love it.
classic R&B.
Yeah.
You know, in the vein of Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions.
Mhm.
You know, same title, but not the same song.
Right.
Yeah.
All these now flooding with memories now.
But what an education,
Oh yeah.
Mark. You know, growing up in that atmosphere.
Yeah. We got the doo-wop songs, we got the R&B, we
Yeah.
got the surf music,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
British invasion, and we all took it all in.
Country, and we had boleros and ranchera
Right.
style music incorporated into our.
And when you played a wedding, you did it all. You know?
You did it all. In fact, most people didn't understand us. You know, I think I mentioned Hilburn from the Times wrote about us. We did a big show at the Hollywood Bowl with the mariachi. Chihuahua.
Los Camperos?
No. Vargas.
Oh, wow.
Mariachi Vargas, Miguel Aceves Mejia, Lola Beltran, right? And the Midnighters, right?
Ooh.
And the Camperos were on that show as well. Tony DeMarco was the MC and the host. And
He was a radio guy.
yeah, he put it together. He went on to manage Fernando
Yeah, I
Valenzuela
know.
from the Dodgers. But we did that show, right? And we would always ask him and Chico Sesma, who had us at his at his Latin swing nights at the Palladium. Do you want us to learn some cha-chas? And you go, no, be yourselves. You know, they wanted us to know that their audience knew who we were and they enjoyed what we did. And I think songs like Strangers in the Night and That's All, To Be With You, kind of lent themselves to their, you know, their
Chico
taste.
Sesma was a radio guy, but he also had been a musician in a band.
Yeah, great trombone player. Yeah, and he loved us too. You know, he was one of those guys that hired us for his gigs, right?
Mhm.
But when we did the Hollywood Bowl, we did our set, you know, which included Strangers in the Night. Of course, That's All. And Land of a Thousand Dances, Love Special Delivery.
Was it mainly a Spanish-speaking audience, you think?
No,
Mixed?
no. Latin Night at the Bowl, bro, we had everybody that loved Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass there too, you know, which is another interesting story
Yes.
with those guys. But the next day, the Times, you know, were reading, you know, how they love Lola Bertrand. I had the honor of introducing her. Tony DeMarco came over to me and said, Willie, you're going to introduce Lola Bertrand.
Wow.
And I said, Tony, what do I do? He goes, I'm going to tell you what to say. Just go out there and say, ladies and gentlemen, La Grande. That's it. He went, yeah, that's all you need to say. And when I said La Grande, I found out what he meant, because that crowd just stood up and just went crazy, man.
The Queen. You know, she recorded one of my dad's songs at the Canción Mexicana. You know, originally Lucha Reyes, the diva of the 40s, did it. And then Lola Bertrand, the diva of the 60s, did it.
Wow. But anyway, Hilburn wrote about us. And he said, the Midnighters, a band in search of a song. That's all he said. Right?
And what do you mean by that? Like you needed a song to get that hit, or what?
I have no idea what, you know, first he said, you know.
Is that a bad review or a good review?
So then, you know, I mean, we ask, you know, what do you think this guy? And he says, you know, he doesn't get you guys.
Oh,
He doesn't get that where you came from, you had to be able to play, you know, all this different stuff. Because I think we did a tongue-in-cheek on El Rancho Grande called The Big Ranch. We did that night too, you know.
For the same music?
Well, you know, our style, the way we did it, the way we recorded it, you know. It starts off like, allá en el Rancho Grande, allá donde vivía, right? And then in the middle of it, you know, it just got crazy. And it's been described that I was like this out of control orchestra leader. You know, I lost control of the band. So we did all that, you know, it's tongue in cheek, you know, sort of vaudevillian, right? But he didn't get us that where we came from and places, most of the places we played, we had to do that. And then when Tony DeMarco and Chico Sesma would tell us, no, be yourselves, do what you do. I'm not even going to tell you what to play, right? Mm-hmm. You know, we probably could have used a little more guidance, but.
Kind of cool to let you free too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that was it. And you know that, you know, growing up, we had to do it all.
Well, let me read through this now. In preparation for this, I went to my website, markguerrero.com, and plug. And I have tons of flyers from the 60s. I don't know if you've seen them.
Oh, I have. It's a great catalog.
I had saved, I was a pack rat. I mean, I would save flyers and posters and band cards. And so there's about, I don't know, about 50 or more that I had saved that's on the web. But then other people started sending me flyers and posters or scans of them. So I probably have a couple of hundred on there. What's beautiful about it, it shows exactly what was going on and how much was going on and all the bands that were involved. So I looked up all the flyers that I have that the Midnighters and my bands played. My first band was Mark and the Escorts from 63 to early 66. Then we changed our name and a few members and we became the Men from Sound. And so I looked at the times we played together, and I'll go through these and it'll bring up some memories. Okay, first one, Shrine Auditorium. That was a biggie, right?
Yeah.
February 21st, 1965, the West Coast East Side Review, the Midnighters, the Blendells, the Blue Satins, Cannibal and the Headhunters, the Jaguars with the Salas Brothers, the Premiers, the Romancers, the Sisters, Mark and the Escorts, and others. And we all played there.
In one show.
Yeah. And the Hullabalooer, Dick Hull was the MC.
Yeah, he was the MC.
Carolee.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I remember you guys, people went crazy. It was like Beatlemania. It was pretty cool.
That was a great show at the Shrine Auditorium. And we did the exhibition hall quite often, but to be inside the actual auditorium was memorable, to say the least.
Yeah. So
and then hobnobbing with all our cronies.
That's right.
It
was fantastic. Yeah, that was probably the most groups in one place at one time.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, now there's another one, and you referred to it at the Grammy thing, the Johnson's Market. Okay. Now I have the clipping on my website from the newspaper, and here's the bands that played. Johnson's Market in the back there on Whittier Boulevard, March 20th, 1965. It's the day before my birthday, the 21st. The Midnighters, Little Ray, the Ambertones, the Counts, Mark and the Escorts,
yeah,
and others. And we played on the back of a flatbed truck, right?
Yeah.
And that was the time you got mobbed, right?
Man, it was unbelievable. We just did our thing like we normally would, right? But for some reason, the crowd, we were always approachable, places we played, there wasn't a lot of security or whatever.
No security.
No security. And the audience, for some reason, bro, they went berserk.
That was the height of Beatlemania, and that might have been something that was like, this is what you're supposed to do with a group when you love them.
Man, and they did. They just, I don't know how they managed to get up on that flatbed truck, but bro, I was being pulled this way by the band, and my legs were out. The crowd had my legs. They got my boots, my socks. Eventually they got my shirt, and I'm glad I wore suspenders that day because they couldn't get my pants. Yeah, I would have lost my pants. But the interesting thing about that is there was so much pandemonium. We started running for our lives, basically. And these kids were chasing us up and down Whittier Boulevard, and we were ducking into storefronts or whatever where we could hide, till the mob passed. And it was interesting. I jumped into one of those little photo booths, and I jumped up on the seat, and I closed the curtain, and I was watching these little tennis shoes run by, and then it got kind of quiet. And then I peeked out and finally walked back out to the boulevard. And there he is. And I started running again. And Eddie Torres came around the corner in his car with the windows down, and I dove into the back seat. It was crazy.
Beatlemania. I had one little taste of that. I'll tell you what happened. I was in the 10th grade. Mark and the Escorts were pretty popular. And we were asked to go back to my junior high school to play, Griffith Junior High School. Mm-hmm. And we played at an assembly for the school. Now we're 10th graders, right? That's big. You're out of junior high. Come back. And we played, and the girls started screaming and the whole deal. And then we were invited by the teachers to eat in the auditorium, and not in the auditorium, in the cafeteria. And we went to the cafeteria, and then some young girls saw us, and they started running toward me. And I ran out, it was like little Hard Day's Night Fantasy. And I ran around the cafeteria with these girls chasing me. It became about 20 or 30 of them. And I'm having a good time running around. And then when I came back in, they caught me in the entranceway. And that's when the pain began. Yeah. Right? Scratching, pulling the hair, tearing the shirt. And now it's not fun. Now you're scared. Yeah. It was dangerous. Imagine what the Beatles went through.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, you get nothing.
But at the same time, you have to say, wow, our fans, once it got past that, how they honored us. You mentioned Griffith going back and being invited. Yeah. It was like that for us as well. A lot of the schools in the area would invite us to do a short concert, and then they would have a dinner or a luncheon for us, and go through a list of things that we had accomplished and places where we had entertained, and who we entertained before. And I'm glad to say that even to this day, our fan base is very much like that. They're very supportive, very loyal, to us. My bandmates from the Midnighters are still working out there, and it's interesting. You know, I'm doing a solo career, but we have the same fans.
Yeah.
The same fans. If it has something to do with East Los Angeles, or the music of East LA, our fans are there supporting us.
Loyalty, and it goes through the generations. You got young
Yeah,
people.
and your website is perfect because we can go back there and we have these great memories, and they'll tell you, I was at that. I was at the Shrine. I was at the Big Union. I was at the Little Union. I was at Kennedy, right?
Absolutely. Hey, here's a funny thing, the Johnson's Market thing. So that was in 1965. Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, Little Ray Jimenez invited me to an event that he had behind the new Sound of Music record store, which is now in the Silver Dollar, the former Silver Dollar bar.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I know.
So where Ruben Salazar was killed is now a record store.
Yeah.
Sound of Music moved across the street. So Ray invited me to come and sing at a little event they had in the back. And they built a stage back in the parking lot. And he invited me and Jerry Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a bunch of young groups. So there was a whole afternoon of concert there. And what I said on stage was, I said, hey, Ray, I said, about 50 years ago, we were playing down on a flatbed truck at Johnson's Market in a parking lot. 50 years later, we're back to the parking lot. And I said, that's our career. We went from parking lot to parking lot. 50 years, that was our evolution. Back to where we started, came full circle. So it was
love it. I love it.
So here's another show here, Big Union Hall. They called it the Big Union on 49th in Vernon. May 1st, 1965, the Sisters, the Midnighters, Mark and the Escorts, and Ronnie and the Casuals. Remember Ronnie and the Casuals?
Yeah.
They were good.
They had the song called The Jerk.
I want to do the jerk.
Yeah.
And they had
funky. Those guys were funky, man.
Yeah, and they had a black singer.
Yeah.
His last name was Lett. I forgot his first name, but his last name was Lett, and he was like 16, and he had like an adult.
Oh yeah, yeah. Very polished. I mean, those guys were good.
Yeah,
this is really interesting. Good. A lot of the bands, garage style bands, all of us to some degree, but some guys are better than others. I mean, we were not the best band, in the circuit, but we, like all of us, there was something that set us apart.
Yeah, well, you certainly were the most popular, and it takes a lot of things.
Yeah. Very gracious.
No doubt.
Yeah, but Ronnie and the Casuals, man, those guys could pump.
Oh yeah, they're funky as hell. Yeah, and we shared the same manager. Billy Cardenas became our manager. He managed everybody, right? Blendell's Premier.
Man, you're gonna make me want to go home and pull out all my 45s.
Yeah, we can do that. So anyway, that was that. Now here's one, St. Alphonsus Hall. Now this is an interesting thing. This may be news to you. The gigs that I just mentioned, Johnson's Market, Shrine, and the Big Union, you had the NIGHTERS still on the flyers. It had the old spelling.
Really? And I think those were typos, man.
Oh, yeah, well, they were.
If Eddie Torres was involved in it, he would have corrected that.
Okay, but this one, St. Alphonsus, this one has the new spelling and with the THEE. So tell about the part.
Oh, wait a minute. You may be right. We might have still been Benny and the Midnighters. Benny had left.
And then just the Midnighters.
We hadn't really changed.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Yeah, so I think that's the actual date because it just changed right there. And in 65. And so talk about the THEE and what it meant.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with thou and thee, like biblical.
Yeah. It really didn't. It just, like I say, when Benny Lopez came into the band, he gave us structure and personality, right? He said, we got to stop wearing these little, little sweaters and skinny continental ties and Chucks, because we were wearing Chucks, tennis shoes, sort of trying to, between surf and Ivy League, really is what we were. He says, man, we got to get ourselves some nice suits,
Exactly.
and really just start,
Well, that's what was happening in 65. You guys had the Beatle haircuts.
yeah,
You had the
yeah.
cool suits with the Beatle boots.
And we had two guys
So the
in
look
the
was
band
love.
that looked like, one looked like Ringo Starr, and Benny
Roy Marcus.
looked like John Lennon.
Yeah, Roy
We
Marcus.
Roy Marcus resembled
Ringo.
Ringo, and Benny Lopez
Yeah.
actually resembled John Lennon.
Yeah, so that added tremendous.
Which was really cool. So I think one of the first gigs was back at San Alfonso's, right? And so once we had agreed what we were going to do about our image, and that's when Eddie Torres said, and we're going to change the name of the band. And we said, no, we can't change the name of the band again, And he says, oh, yes, we can. We're not going to no longer be the Midnighters. We're going to be the Midnighters.
The Midnighters.
And we went, and then he went, THEE. And we went, oh, that the.
And then just about every band copied. Every
Yeah,
except
isn't
for
that
the Blue
something?
Satins you mentioned.
Yeah, the Blue Satins, which were my boyhood pals from Salesian High School. I mean, we were really pals. We really were. And interesting enough, I mean, we had this little healthy competition going on between
Yeah.
bands, which was kind of cool. In my high school annual, my graduating album annual, you listed things, what's your ambitions or whatnot, and pet peeves, right? They asked me what my pet peeves were, and I said PE and the Blue Satins. And Pete Ventura, Frank Mosqueda, as did Charlie Luers, those guys, they got a big kick out of that,
Well, They
it
wore
was-
really cool blue coats, and it
Oh,
was
man.
about 10 of them. It looked like an army.
Yeah, they were
good.
they were sharp. They were sharp, man. They had these two singers that did all the Righteous Brothers songs, and they were amazing band. Bobby Loya was in that band,
Mhm.
and they were cool. I'll say one thing, Bobby Loya is a great trumpet player, but when he saw Romeo Prado playing valve trombone, he started playing valve trombone in the Blue Satins.
And Bobby Loya went on to play with the Midnighters in Tierra. In fact, he was on a show I just did with at the Quiet Cannon. He was there.
Yeah. He was in the first band.
Yeah, great. And didn't he go to Salesian as well?
Yeah. He graduated from Salesian, and his brother Tony Garcia, great sax man. He was in the Progressions. He actually was the MD for Ray in the Progressions.
Yeah, we should mention that the Little Ray and the Progressions, at some point, I think it was in 65, he started Little Ray and the Progressions, really good group. And then he went full review, and he had the epics and the four clefs. It was a whole review.
Yeah, review.
Little Ray
Little
review.
Ray review. Yeah.
Pretty ballsy for that.
Oh, bro,
back then.
it was. I mean, entrepreneurial.
Yeah, entrepreneurial.
Yeah,
He
entrepreneurial.
still is. He's got his studio, and
Yeah. Sanctuary.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Still rocking, still singing.
Still here on the east side too.
Yeah. So, oh man, amazing memories. So let's see, here's another one. St. Alphonsus Hall, the Midnighters again with a new spelling, the Four Queens. Now that was a band that Billy Cardenas managed that were all girls, and they were from, I think they were from Long Beach or somewhere down there.
Yeah.
But I remember them very well. They played guitars, bass guitars, drums.
Yeah, they were a chick band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you remember Ricky Shade?
Yeah, I do.
What's the story on him? He's on.
I'm not quite sure, but
He was a black singer, right?
Yeah.
Ricky Shade.
Yeah, there was another band. I don't know. You may have flyers. The Desires.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They were the first ones. They wrote "Dance with Me" that the Blendells recorded and Mark and the Escorts later recorded.
And they had another song called "Ouch." It was an instrumental.
Ouch.
Ouch.
I
Yeah.
remember we did one gig with them at Rainbow Gardens. We used to do the Sunday afternoon at Rainbow Gardens in 64. So the Romancers would play there, the Jaguars. It's another great venue.
Those bands were great, man. They're guitar driven,
Yeah.
pretty much guitar driven, but they had great lead singers,
Yeah. Yeah.
another level, just another notch, man. It's
Absolutely.
amazing. A lot of the bands that didn't get a break, they
yeah.
just didn't get the break, but
Tons
they
of
were
great bands.
as good as any band.
Yeah. Great guitar players, great singers, great band.
Yeah.
Slauson Brothers, remember George Ochoa and his brother John?
Yeah,
They were on the bill. George later joined our band, the Men from Sound,
yeah.
and that was the
And
best band I
Yaki,
had.
was he in Yaki for a while?
Yeah, that was later. Yeah, that was early 70s.
Yeah.
But
Then, of
he
course,
joined
he
our
joined
band, the Men from Sound. That was my best band of the 60s. I had George Ochoa on vocal, me on guitar and vocal, Rick Rosas on bass. We had a great keyboard player, Tony Rodas, and our drummer, Ernie Hernandez, who sang. We had harmonies. We could do Beatles stuff, Taxman, R&B. It was a very popular band at that
And
time.
you
We
mentioned
never made a record, though.
Anthony Beret too.
Oh, yeah, the Emeralds.
Oh,
They're one of the best bands. They always did everything correctly,
yeah,
sounded like the record, you know.
yeah. I used to love to go in the late 60s, early 70s. I used to love to go see them play because they were doing all the Beatles stuff, like
Absolutely.
the White Album and
Oh, yeah.
something,
Yeah.
something in the way. And like you say, just correct. It was a
Everything.
treat
Yeah.
to go hear a band.
And he would go beyond because it was enough that the chords were right and the
Yeah.
arrangement, but he tried to make it sound like the record.
Yeah,
The guitar
exactly.
sound like the right guitar. The
Exactly.
keyboard sound. Yeah. I played with the Emeralds in 1970 for 6 months, and it was a great band. And we did stuff like She Said off the Revolver album, just to the T.
Yeah.
So much fun, you know. So great, yeah, great band. So let's see, let's get back here. Mark and the Escorts and the Impalas. Remember the Impalas?
Of
Ronnie
course.
Reyes,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And then
Sanchez on bass.
Al Anaya went on to
Yes.
sing. When I left the Midnighters, he went on to sing.
That's right. He was with the Impalas. I remember him way back when, and then later with the Midnighters. So then the Boulevard Theater. Now here's a flyer. Little Ray, the Midnighters, Ronnie and the Casuals, the Sisters, the Counts, Mark and the Escorts, and the VIPs, who later became El Chicano.
That's right. That's right. Bobby Espinosa.
June 5th, 1965.
Wow. The Boulevard Theater.
Yeah.
Huggy Boy actually took that theater over.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's a Huggy Boy Theater now.
Right.
Still up there too on the marquee, Huggy Boy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You can see it says Huggy Boy. I was just there like a month ago.
Mhm.
Okay, now we changed our name to the Men from Sound in 1966. So here's flyers I have with the Men from Sound with the Midnighters, St. Alphonsus, the Midnighters, the Olympics with Hully Gully,
Wow. Yeah.
the
They went to
Impalas.
Centennial High School, those guys. They were from Centennial High School.
Yeah, they had a few hits, right? The Bounce.
The Bounce, Big Boy Pete,
Yeah.
right? Oh no, that was the Coasters who had Along King Jones.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The Impalas, the Men from Sound, the Runabouts. Now that was Eddie Torres' younger brother.
Yeah, Bobby Torres.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's one. The Big Union again, April 9th, 1966. The Midnighters, Dobie Gray, when he had I'm in with the in crowd.
Yeah.
And guess what? We got to back him up that day.
Wow.
And he actually came to our rehearsal. Like we were like 15, 16-year-old kids. He came out to our rehearsal. He was a big
Where did you
star.
guys rehearse at, Mark?
Well, that rehearsal was in Montebello, and I don't remember whose house it was.
Yeah, okay.
I was shocked that this star, this R&B man, came to our rehearsal. And I remember one of the songs we backed him on was Hitchhike by Marvin Gaye. And we also did In Crowd. And I have pictures of us backing him up at the Big Union. That was a thrill.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah. So let's see who else is on the bill here. The Ambertones, Men from Sound, the Exotics. They were a really good band. They were one of our chief.
Well, they were
rivals.
the little brothers of the
Delgado brothers.
Ambertones.
Yeah, Delgado.
Right, the
brothers.
Delgado brothers.
Eddie Delgado was in the Ambertones.
Yeah, Eddie.
His younger brothers, Danny and Bobby, were in the Exotics. And they were big rivals of ours because we both went to Garfield High School. We were both around the same age, a little younger than you guys.
And
younger.
they were starting to do more like going into the psychedelic type.
Yeah, they were into like
genre.
Kinks and kind of the harder British group, Stones, kind of R&B based, but they were good. And we used to really push each other by oh, they're doing that, let's do this. It was a good
St. Alfonso's was an interesting venue, bro. I don't know. You may have a flyer there. I hope I'm not getting ahead of the curve here, but Jackie DeShannon.
Oh yeah, I've seen that flyer.
We backed her up at St. Alfonso. St. Alfonso's was the Perez brothers from Pacoima. Oh my
I
God.
saw Billy Preston there.
Look at that. Huh?
Billy Preston.
And, Barry White was in a band called the Atlantics,
Mhm.
and he played at a lot of these gigs. too.
Montebello Ballroom. I saw the Turtles there when they were
Yeah,
when they had the
yeah.
big hit "It Ain't Me, Babe."
Yeah,
Roy Head, Treat Her
yeah.
Right, Treat Her
Oh
Right.
God, treat her right.
He was there. So we'd get these people, R&B groups
Da, da, da,
or
da.
the Hollywood set, the white
Yeah,
groups too. Which
yeah.
is fun.
Yeah.
I was shocked that them with Van Morrison played at the Big Union.
Oh yeah. In fact, George and I picked them up.
No way.
Picked them up at the whiskey in between shows.
And you were on the bill with them at the Big Union?
Yeah, at the Big Union. So we hadn't played yet, and I said, "I'll go get them." I had a Cadillac. Went and picked them up, and man, I wish.
Wow.
Where's the photographer?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, where's the photographer when you need him?
We only had cell phones then.
We picked them up, man. We picked them up, brought them. They did their set, and then we drove them back, and still made it back in time to close out the show.
That's incredible.
Yeah, them.
Okay.
Man, them.
Exciting.
We had Steppenwolf. Eddie would book these bands, man. You know, Steppenwolf, Bobby Fuller 4. It's amazing.
I remember, yeah. I fought the law and the law won. I
Yeah.
saw them at a bowling alley, Carolina Lanes by the
Yeah.
X.
Yeah.
I saw them there and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
I saw Chuck Berry there too.
We thought they were endorsed by Fender because they drove up in this bread truck, you know, with all this Fender gear. They had their own PA, you know, and then they said, "No, man, we had to buy everything." They had to buy everything.
Wow. Okay, here's another Big Union, Midnighters, Little Ray and the Progressions, the Ambertones Sisters, Men from Sound, the Prophets. Do you remember the Prophets?
Yeah. The
I think
the
John
Prophets.
DeLuna might have been
Yeah, John DeLuna was their drummer.
before
Yeah,
he was an
they
El Chicano.
Chicano.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Prophets of old, and then they dropped.
the old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Okay, here's Kennedy Hall, April 29th, 1966. The Midnighters featuring the great Willie G. I
Oh my
noticed that
God.
there's a few flyers there where you were the great Willie G.
Wow.
Cool, huh?
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Man, I don't remember that billing.
Yeah. So let's see. VIPs, Ambertones, Men from Sound, The Unusuals. I know Art Sanchez, who was later in the
Yeah.
Impalas, was in that band.
Yeah.
Uh,
The Unusuals.
yeah. Oh, and
What-
here's another thing.
That's
Most of these
cutting edge.
dances, yeah. Most of these dances were $2 donation.
Yeah. If you didn't have the $2, you could still get in if you were dressed correctly.
Yeah, but it would say on there, dress nice,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Dress to impress. Yeah. Right. Or dress nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Kennedy Hall, May 13th, 1966, Midnighters, Love Special Delivery. So
Wow.
that's when you just put that out.
Yeah.
And that's when you guys started writing, right?
Yeah. We were challenged, man.
And It'll Never Be Over for Me. Was that the flip side or was that a separate single?
No, there wasn't. There was a single. It'll Never Be Over for Me was a single.
And Men from Sound. And I wrote here, as far as what I have, that's the last time we were on the bill with the Midnighters in the 60s. But that's quite a few times right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a run.
Yeah, it was a great.
What a run.
Great run. Let's see, I don't want to forget anything here. Let's see. Let's say, so after the Midnighters, you started going out to Hollywood and you kind of got a little hippied out.
Mhm.
And then you guys eventually formed God's Children, you and Little Ray, right?
Yeah, that was, I had a band in between that called WAG.
Okay.
Yeah, with Stevie Gutierrez on drums, Larry Chavez on bass. And those two guys stayed with me. And when Little Ray and I started discussing putting together a band.
And where did that band play? Because I don't remember hearing about you guys. Were you guys on the West Side or what?
No, actually, we formed the band and we moved to Bakersfield.
Oh,
And we played in Bakersfield. We had a residency at Carolina Caravan Inn. at
Are you
the
talking about the Wags or the God's Children?
no, God's Children.
Okay, but
Oh,
where do the
Wag,
Wags play?
the Wag, oh, we played all over the West Side, man.
Oh, yes, I
We
think.
did the Whiskey. We actually played the Whiskey
Nice.
a few times. The Troubadour,
That's cool.
Ash Grove. You know, we were doing like that little circuit and a bunch of house parties, and
You never recorded with them?
we did actually. And
Anything out?
no, we never released anything. The band sort of just, you know, we sort of drifted apart.
And then that's when God's Children happened, and then you went to
Yeah,
Bakersfield.
yeah, you know, I bummed around. I had some good jobs, man. I actually, I did a solo thing, Antonio Garcia.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, and I opened up for the Teatro Campesino
Oh,
at the Ash Grove, and a few things up in the Central Valley. But now I had this little persona going, and I did Elliot Mintz at a radio show on Sunday afternoons at the Troubadour. And I just took my guitar over there. My manager, Rudy Rodriguez, George Rodriguez, photographers, these guys. Rudy got me at the Troubadour, and I did the Elliot Mintz show. Sitting on there with my guitar and kibitzing with him and doing a few songs, you know.
Elliot Mintz was a brilliant, pretty intelligent guy.
Yeah.
He wound up being good friends with John Lennon. And
yeah. So I did that, and then that sparked. I put together a band again because I got a Monday night hoot
at the
the Troubadour.
I played that once to my
Right. So in the interim, Rudy had made friends. They were doing some photography for Steve Binder, the guy that produced Elvis's comeback show in the Round in the Black.
Oh yeah, 68.
Black leather. So Steve Binder, right, befriended Rudy Rodriguez. And so I'm rehearsing for the Troubadour to do their Monday night hoot nanny with a quartet, just, you know, guitar, bass, drums, and piano. Well, Steve Binder brings Steve Allen to the rehearsal.
Wow.
Right. And one of the songs in my show was Brother, Where Are You? Which Steve Allen, he loved it. You know, he loved Brother, Where Are You? Right. And he gave me a few pointers, you know, because I used to do a monologue in it. Right. And he told me, he goes, don't add that. He said, take that out. He goes, people don't need to know all that stuff. You know, he says, go there, throw down. I was doing Anthony Newley stuff. For once in a lifetime, a man has a moment, right? I closed the show with that song, with the Anthony Newley song. Steve Allen hired me. Guy gets up every morning and writes a song. He hired me. Charlie Albertine, you know who Charlie Albertine is? It's the guy that wrote the theme song for American Bandstand.
Oh, wow.
He hooks me up with Charlie Albertine, and I cut demos for Steve Allen every morning. He would write a song. Charlie Albertine.
Every morning.
Every morning he would write a song. They weren't finished. A lot of them weren't finished. They were ideas. I would meet Charlie Albertine. He'd come, you know, and go in a room with me with a piano, teach me the melody, right? And then we'd go to Sunset Recorders and get a small studio there. And I would record these demos every day.
Would you get paid?
Yeah, I got paid, bro. I was making like $200 a week.
Yeah, which was good. Yeah.
Really good money, you know, kept me out of trouble too, you know. And then through that, like I started getting all these gigs doing commercials, you know, for Schlitz and other producers, Jules Shakins, these guys, you know, they started hearing about me. And Max Garduno, who was in the God's Children, the Afterbirth. Yeah, he introduced me to a lot of these guys and got me gigs. When God's Children moved back to Southern California from Bakersfield, we came back because Eddie Davis had brought a song to me called "Hey, Does Somebody Care?" And he had to deal with Uni Records.
Uni?
Uni.
Yeah.
Uni Records was pretty
MCA.
big. Yeah. So he pitched me the song. Eddie Davis pitched me the song to do as a solo. And I pitched God's Children, but not as a folk thing with flute and guitar, but with an orchestra. And Eddie Davis lit up. I didn't think he was going to buy the idea, but he lit up. And a few days later, he called me. He says, I found an arranger. He's writing an arrangement. We'll be ready, like in a week, maybe less than a week. Can you guys come down and record it? So we started practicing the song because we had 5 vocals on it at the time. And we came down and we were just amazed. We couldn't get Columbia. We were recording at CBS, but the studio got tied up. So they moved it over to where they do all their epic artists, which was a studio upstairs, sort of a la Abbey Road style. And we got there and went up the stairs into the studio, and Arthur Freeman was just doing the countdown. That's Ernie Freeman's brother.
And that was my junior high school music teacher, Arthur.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So he counts the thing off. We had just got there, and he, the way the song starts off, and they started going through it, and all that. And when the song was over, right? He was like this seemed like eternity, silence, right? And then he went like that. The orchestra got up and gave him a standing ovation.
Wow.
That arrangement was just like.
Now, did you guys sing with that, or that was the basic track and you later overdone?
That was a basic track, and then we went.
Did Ray sing on it too?
Oh yeah, yeah. We had the principal lead parts on it. Ray took the verse, I took the hook, and then we orchestrated the vocals around that.
And that wound up a theme song for that TV show.
Matt Lincoln. Yeah, ABC. It was on ABC, and it made it up the charts in the Gulf Gulf Coast. I think up to number 10 or something like that. Down in that area. So we had quite a bit of success with that.
And it should be mentioned that God's Children, even though that was the name, it was not like a gospel or religious group. It was just kind of a hippie. We're all God's children.
Yeah, we were trying to play off of Hair.
Yeah.
Off of Hair. We just, picked that name. We thought it was good. There was a lot of stuff going on. Old Time Religion, which is another Yaqui.
Yeah, they became
Yaqui.
Yeah, they became Yaqui.
So there was that going around because we were searching. All of us were kind of like searching and trying to make this love, peace, happiness thing really work.
Yeah.
So
when did Brown Baby with Eddie Davis, was that before God's Children?
No, I was still, it was actually. It was before. Two songs, Brown Baby and Lonely Lullaby. It was A and B side, right? And those are songs like that. Eddie was hiring me to do some session work, and I love those 2 songs, man.
Yeah, really.
Mario Paniagua
From the Jaguars.
He wrote Lonely Lullaby. And I mean, the arrangement on that, bro, it's symphonic,
Well, he wrote Where Lovers Go, which became an East LA classic.
Yeah.
And Los Lobos just recut it.
Yeah. Grammy.
Along with your Love Special Delivery.
Love Special Delivery.
Moving ahead here, but
my son and I also, we did background vocals on The World is a Ghetto, and I got to do a verse on Native Sons. Yeah.
And who sang Love Special Delivery? Was that Cesar?
That was Cesar. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that you got the song recorded all these years later.
No. It's what an honor.
And Native Sons, it won a Grammy this couple weeks ago.
Amazing stuff. They're an amazing band, no doubt.
So your relationship with them, I mean, I think the story was that they came in to see you. You were preaching. There was a victory outreach or something. Is that what happened?
I don't recall that.
Yeah, well, I heard maybe they told me something like that. But anyway, they connected you at some point, and you started a relationship with them, and you started doing some stuff with them.
Yeah. This the first thing I did with them was for the ride.
Great album where they had all these guest artists, Bobby Womack,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. Mavis Staples.
Oh yeah.
Ruben Blades, Ruben Blades.
Yes. Great album. And you sang what on that?
Is This All There Is?
Yeah.
They thought it was a fitting thing because of where I'm at. I'm a minister now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of prophetic in some sense, right? And, but we had been friends prior to that, I think, because they used to come to our shows. When we used to do the Big Union and Little Union and the Kennedy and that. And
they were younger.
They were much younger. I don't think they were the Lobos yet.
No.
They were they were in different bands. Conrad had a band, Caesar had his own band, and I think Louis and David were the ones that had a band. And then when they started like coming together, they started as friends, I guess, that like music, right? And so they evolved into a band. They would come, they told us to watch George's fingers because they couldn't figure out what he was doing.
George Dominguez.
So, yeah, on some of those solos. And that's what sort of ignited, you know, our friendship. You know, it began like that, sort of like from a distance, but still perpetuated into something beautiful for us.
And you've been on stage with them many times at the Greek Theater, various things.
Yeah, they've invited me to be a part of their shows. You know, hey, what are you doing? Come on down, man. You know,
Come on down.
And so we've done that, you know, with the Tex Maniacs.
Oh yeah, Max
Yeah,
Baca.
with the Gato Negro and Max.
Max Baca.
Yeah, Max Baca and his Joshua, his nephew. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff.
Cool. So what about, let's talk about the, what came first? Chavez Ravine album, Ry Cooder. Okay.
Wow.
So I'll just lay a little bit of groundwork on that one. I think I told you this a few years ago, you didn't know. But when he decided to do the Chavez Ravine album about the way the Valle was torn down to build Dodger Stadium, the first guy he wanted was my dad, you know, as a cornerstone. And so he got my dad's number somewhere and he started calling my dad, you know, I'm doing this project. And my dad didn't know who he was, you know, it's kind of outside my dad's orbit. And so he kind of like blew Ry off a bit, you know. And my dad called me one day and he goes, this guy, he keeps bugging me, this Cy Cooder. I said, Dad, it's probably Ry Cooder is very important, great guitar player, great producer. Should you pay attention to him, you know? Yeah. And so Ry asked him to write a song, and then my dad didn't understand what he wanted. So finally, Ry called me, and I said, explain to me what you want. And he explained to me. I told my dad. My dad wrote the song overnight. I called Ry and said, hey, my dad wrote the song. I'll be down there tomorrow. He drove all the way from Santa Monica, and we met at my house. And it was Ry, me, and my dad. My dad played the song for him. Ry shook his hand and said, okay, we're in. We're going to do this thing. And so we were just talking, and I showed Ry The Land of a Thousand Dances book by David Reyes and Tom Waldman. Yeah. And I went to the center where the pictures were, and I was showing him the different East LA groups. And there was Willie G and the Midnighters. And he goes, who's that guy? I said, well, that's Little Willie G. Does he still sing? I said, yeah. I said, he just had an album out produced by David Hidalgo. That's all he needed to hear because he was a big David Hidalgo fan and knew. And he goes, he still sings? Yeah. So that's how he contacted you.
Wow.
Yeah. Now he probably would have found you anyway, but that did happen. And
yeah, I think he spoke with David also. Yeah.
Well, yeah, after that, he must have.
Yeah, but I did not know that.
Yeah.
Part of the story.
Is that guy still singing? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So so you were involved on the album. I think Rudy Salas, Ursia Visu.
Yeah. I brought Rudy in to do background vocals for Three Cool Cats. Yeah. Because I got the perfect guy to do the low voice.
Yeah.
Because we used to sing together a lot, you know, on those commercials I told you about earlier. Yeah, I brought in him and Stephen Joey Guerra, their keyboard player at the time for theater.
Did he sing or play or both?
Joey's a great singer.
Yeah, I heard that. I never knew that because I never knew
that. And he knew harmony. You know, when we needed that fourth part or that third part, you know, Rudy and Steve were excellent, you know, for what they did. But I needed a part. And then we needed a fourth part with Joey, for
Ooh.
these commercials. They wanted a quartet,
And what song did you wrote a song or two for it? I know you wrote at least
Oh
one.
my God. I wrote lyrics for, David Hidalgo and I wrote Onda Callejera.
Right.
I wrote lyrics for Poor Man Shangri-La.
Which Gina Aguilera wrote the lyrics to, right?
Yeah, he wrote some lyrics for it as well. Muy Fifi,
Mhm.
right? Third base, Dodger Stadium. This guy had the hook, third base. And if you want to know where I'm coming from, right? Third base, Dodger Stadium. The guy had that. And I wrote the rest of it, And there's one more song. I had 5 songs on it. Can't think of the other one right now off the top of my head. But
Well, my dad, they
I wrote over a dozen songs for it,
oh wow,
but 5 made the cut.
that's a lot, man.
Yeah.
My dad wrote one song for it. It was called Corrido del Boxeo.
Sale.
Yeah, Boxeo.
Yeah.
That there were these 2 Mexican fighters.
Chavez brothers.
Right. And I think my dad knew them or something.
Yeah.
But he wrote about that. And then they added my dad's Chuco Suaves, Los Chuco Suaves, and his Barrio Viejo, which had been used in a documentary about Chavez Ravine.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So anyway, my dad was starting to suffer from dementia. He was getting very forgetful and he was getting very frail. He was 83 years old. So Rai asked me to come along and help my dad. So I would cue him and take care of him. But I also would tell the band, I showed the sax player the signature
Line.
lick of Chuco Suaves. So I was helping musically as well. And it was fun to be there at Village Recorders.
Yeah, it was a marvelous experience, man.
Wasn't it interesting that Rai, being Rai, Village Recorders is one of the great studios of the world. Steely Dan recorded a lot of their stuff there, incredible. But what does Rai do? Forget the studio. He records upstairs in the Masonic
in the
Hall.
ballroom.
It was this, no good sound. He wanted it to sound like a live thing.
Yeah.
And so we were upstairs and he would communicate with the board via TV monitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he also didn't want separation. People always put baffles. So we put all the musicians together.
Yeah.
And they were playing live.
Old school.
Very exciting,
Yeah.
And it was so incredible. And just to show you what Rai was like, at one point on Barrio Viejo, Flaco Jimenez was playing accordion and he played like a major chord to a minor chord. And it went, and I go, oh God. I go to Rai, say, hey, Rai, he played a major chord to a minor chord. He goes, that's okay. He could have fixed it, but he left it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like Bob Dylan type of thing.
Yeah.
It happened. So what?
It's one of those moments.
Yeah.
You'll do it better or worse, but you'll never do it like that again.
Yeah. I remember Neil Young became like that too. My bass player, Rick Rosas, who played with him for years, he said that they were doing some song and Richard made a mistake. And he goes, hey, I made this mistake. Can I fix it? He goes, yeah, you can fix it, but I'm not going to use it. Use the mistake. Yeah. So some artists.
It made the song unique. Yeah.
Chavez Ravine was a great experience.
Really, really rich, rewarding experience. A lot of memories there that you really don't think of too often, but it rekindled so much. And the writing came from that, everything that Rai wrote or those that contributed to it. Your dad's stuff was like paramount because it was just so visual, and to be a part of that, Muy Fifi, it was actually, Rai had this track and I wrote another set of lyrics for it called Cruiser's Dream. We were going to do something about the cruising aspect, right, of that. And he was talking to Mike Stroller.
Lieber and Stroller.
Yeah, because he brought him down because he wanted him to hear the track of Three Cool Cats, right? And he was talking to him and he was telling him about this Filipino guy, back in the late 40s, with his drapes, and you knew the guy was a knife carrier because you could see it in pocket, Rye's talking to this guy. And I'm saying, I know that guy, right? And I says, that guy used to date my cousin. And I started penning the words for Muy Fifi. Mijita, por Dios te lo pido, no salgas con ese tipo. Traje guango, se le ve el filero. Right? Yeah. And so that, I wrote it like however long the song is, like that. And then when they were done with their thing, right, I showed the lyrics to Ryan. He says, well,
Your camera jumped.
yeah, the lyrics to the song. Sorry, man, my camera's not cooperating.
That's good.
So, and he went, oh, Scrub Cruiser's dream. This is a mambo. This is, he was like, I'm doing the lyrics for him, right? I'm doing the thing, and he's hearing it already like a mambo. And then Nightline did this scene, with who's the gal that played the wife in the Munsters?
Carolyn Jones, was it?
No, that was
That was the other one. That was the Addams Family.
The Addams Family.
DeCarlo, Yvonne DeCarlo.
Yvonne DeCarlo with Burt Lancaster. This movie, and he picked out this thing. There's this piano player, with the ruffles on his thing and a conguero, and it was perfect. And they used Muy Fifi, the track for Muy Fifi, behind this scene from this movie, right, to tell the story. That's where Rye's head was, in selecting that song, for the thing. And then it's a story about anybody who had a sister or a cousin growing up in that. And Ursi was a perfect voice for it,
Oh, and Jim Keltner was a drummer, and what an interesting guy.
Yeah, there was no slouches for him.
I mean, he's played with Bob Dylan, John Lennon, everybody. And in downtime, he tell me stories about George Harrison and John Lennon. It was awesome.
Amazing.
And he's half Chicano. He's half Chicano.
Yeah, my son's a drummer. So I would take Jacob with me to the sessions and stuff. And they would just talk, man, and whatnot. And they got spiritual at times, about, is there anything else? I mean, who else are you going to play for? If you're not going to play for God, or the supreme being that put us here, that has enabled us to do stuff like this and be creative and unlock creativity in our lives. That's magical, bro.
Yeah, great experience.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the 2008, the Trini Lopez PBS thing.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. That was the Midnighters, Tierra, El Chicano, Greg Raleigh, Trini Lopez, and I got to sing Los Trucos Suaves with Tierra. And it was a tremendous thing. It was like 7 high-def cameras and at the Orpheum Theater. It was another great day for East LA, with the Salas brothers there and everybody. It was great. What do you remember about that?
Do you think you ever do another one like that, Mark?
Wouldn't it be great?
I think it would, I think it might even be timely.
What's so important about that, though, is it captured all those groups. We're talking 2008.
Yeah.
They were all still in their prime, like great. And so many of the people have passed. Bobby Espinoza since then, of El Chicano, Steve Falomir of Tierra, Rudy Salas, Steve Salas, Trini Lopez.
Romeo Prado.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh no, Romeo had already passed. I mean, he had just passed because I remember we used a sub for him.
We have that.
We have a sub anyway.
Yeah. But everybody played great, man. Just fantastic performance. Aaron Ballesteros has passed, great drummer for Tierra. So it's a great document that we have. But it would be great to do something like that again for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's get that one out first.
Yeah, exactly.
Get that one up first, man. That's history.
Yeah.
That's history, man.
I still got footage of that stuff.
I remember Della Reese was in the audience.
Yes.
She was in the audience. My God, I used to go see her at Marty's on the Hill at the Parisian Room, Shelley's Manhole. Wow. And here I am with you guys at the Orpheum Theater. Yeah. And there's Della Reese right there. Mm.
And then backstage, it was so much camaraderie, and it was fantastic, you know?
Trini was in great form.
Yeah.
He was in great form, man.
And then the La Bamba finale.
Yeah.
So you've seen that on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have.
And you're right next to Trini, and I'm right next to you. And then you got Rudy Salas, you got
Jerry Salas.
Jerry Salas of El Chicano, and
Chicano.
Billy Mandragon of Tierra.
Oh,
And
wow.
we each sang verses of
Yeah,
La Bamba, and it was a free for all. That's what was fun. Nothing
Yeah.
was planned, unlike when we did the Grammy. We planned it out, who's singing where. There was
Yeah.
a free for all. Just people just start singing, but it was
It
cool.
was
It worked
fun.
out.
It was really fun. That was a fun gig. Yeah.
We got it on video, thank God.
And the venue was amazing.
The Orpheum,
Yeah.
huge crowd,
Yeah.
filled up even the balcony. So
Yeah.
I got
It's
footage
still-
of it, but we got to figure out how to get it out,
Yeah.
legally and everything else.
Somebody can help us.
Yeah, well, we should.
Somebody.
It's got to be out, man.
Yeah, hopefully that your podcast here will catch somebody's ear.
Yeah. Got to keep pushing.
Josh Kuhn. We should contact Josh Kuhn.
Yeah, I wonder about what about
Anyway, if you're watching or listening, Josh, we're talking about you.
Shout Factory? Your
Shout
friend
Factory. I don't know if Richard is still
Trufus. You might
doing
have sold
stuff
it.
like that. Richard Foos. No, I don't know if he sold it, but he moved to Connecticut, I
Oh,
think.
really?
Connecticut or something like that. But Shout Factory still here in Santa Monica, of course.
Really?
Wouldn't hurt. We can always do Hulu and Netflix.
Yeah, there's so many outlets now. That's what's so
Yeah,
cool. Nowadays,
there's
it's not
different-
just 3 stations.
Different outlets now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of stuff. Do you think of anything else? I mean, we've covered.
Oh,
tons of
gosh.
stuff.
There's so much, but I'm just, man, I'm honored to be talking with you about all this stuff, Mark.
Yeah, likewise, man. This is great.
We don't get a chance to do this too often.
Yeah.
We're caught up with our present, life, right?
Yeah.
Grandkids and
Yeah.
baseball and the things that come with it,
Yeah.
and then our careers as well are still, thank God we're still working,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, one of these
So
days we
it's,
should do lunch at a great Mexican restaurant,
Let's do that.
Yeah.
We'll come to you,
All right, there you go. It'd be cool.
Las Cazuelas.
Well, I don't know about that place. I worked there
No,
for many
not
years,
anymore.
but
Not
when I
anymore.
left, I wasn't too happy.
All right. El Rinconcito in Indio.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
little hole in the wall. There's a little hole in the
Rincon
wall.
Norteño. Is that one?
No.
There's another called the
El
Mexican.
Rincon Norteño. That's probably it. The
Yeah, I think
Rincon.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably its nickname. Rinconcito.
We can go to Mexicali to eat Chinese food. They got the best Chinese food in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
heard that.
Restaurants are owned and run by authentic Chinese.
Wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
And they'll tell you stories of their parents coming at the turn of the century to work the agricultural fields and the railroad.
The coolies that used to in the
Yeah,
1800s
yeah.
railroads.
Yeah,
The opium dens in Los Angeles.
yeah, all that in Calexico and Mexicali. Yeah, so there's some great stories there from real Chinamen.
There you go.
Yeah,
So just sort of in closing, tell me what you think about growing up in East LA, the East LA music scene, what you feel about it. It was an amazing thing. I've often said that we were lucky that there were so many teenage venues. There's nothing like that today.
no,
You have all these bands popping up and all these venues. It was like a magical, nobody planned it. It just was there and it happened. All the
Yeah.
various managers, the record companies, you had Bob Keane and Delphi and all that. You had Eddie Davis with his record companies, and you had Eddie Torres making his record companies. So all that happened. It was a happening.
it was a happening. It fell into our lap, and I think we're blessed to have lived at that time. Who knows what have become of us had we been born someplace else or to other parents or,
Yeah,
You
and,
know?
and we're lucky we're in LA next to Hollywood. Look, if we grew up in Denver or San Antonio, there wasn't the music industry like
Yeah.
we're 20 minutes away from.
and I'll say this, East LA has been overlooked. The music of East LA has been overlooked. You have, you have the New Orleans, you have Seattle, you know,
Yes.
of course, the New York scene or whatever,
Liverpool.
Liverpool, but here's East LA, you know, with all these contributions and all this creativity,
Oh,
you
talent.
know, that occurred, this explosion, you know, and look at some of the bands that are still working today that were birthed out of it. You know, Los Lobos is one of them. They came from that DNA, you know, and they'll tell you they were fortunate. They saw maybe not the beginning stages of it, but at its height, they were influenced by a lot of that.
And what's really beautiful too is, you know, I was working on a project, Great Day in East LA. I interviewed you for that
Mhm.
with Piero Giunti.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got to interview the younger people, the groups from the 90s, from the 2000s, from the 2010s. And there has never not been an East LA scene, you know, whether it was a punk time or, you
Mhm.
know, bands now that are doing a lot of cumbias or rap or whatever. There has always been bands coming out of East LA and a lot of talent. You know, we had a special golden era and more hits or whatever, but it's never stopped, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that sets us apart is we had the places to play.
Yeah, exactly.
We really did. I don't think a lot of the bands today have that.
A lot of them, they just do backyard parties and
It has to be recreated.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be recreated somewhere.
we were lucky we had all those venues that we just mentioned and more.
Incidentally, I got a call or an email from another Mark.
Mhm.
You guys are doing something at the Union Station.
Oh, yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, I got
believe
an email
you
about
did.
that. I think that's for
Oh,
you.
did you?
Yeah,
Oh,
and I
okay.
gave him your email address.
Yeah,
What's
I
that about?
appreciate that.
What's that about?
I'm not sure. But
Some kind of a
there's a
show at
band
Union
called
Station?
The Illusions. It's from the 4th through the 8th. I think it's quite a few days or something, but they're actually having a live band on the 7th. But unfortunately, I'm already booked. I'm booked the 7th.
Of May?
Yeah.
Coming up soon, huh?
So he said, oh, maybe you could work it in. You know, you don't have to bring your whole band. The Illusions will back you up. You know, but I think just it's unrealistic for me to,
No
you know,
time.
what it's like when you're doing a street fair type performance. Getting in and out is
Oh, yeah.
is a tough part, and then sound checks and all that stuff. So I don't think I could realistically work that in logistically, you know, to get in. It'd be a great thing to do,
Yeah.
but it's nice to know that they're doing stuff like that at the Union Station, and we should hear more about that. Seems to be like an inner circle.
Yeah.
You know, this stuff needs to be publicized
Yes.
to some dimension, you know.
You know, another good thing about the East Side Sound in East LA is that, you know, there's more and more books and documentaries that we're in. You know, we're being more recognized as part of the music scene of rock history. You know, we kind of skipped over. I just, you know, briefly I should mention we skipped that early '70s period. You know, when Art Brambilla was involved, where you had Me with Capital, Yaki with Playboy Records, Tierra with 20th Century, Carmen Moreno with Capital, and there was this whole other scene in the early '70s.
Right.
And when you were doing your thing. So there was a whole other thing going on that was different from the '60s. The music had evolved more. The music had become more Latino, you know, more Latin percussion, you know, more bilingual. So, you know, there was a huge thing going on in the early '70s as well.
Right.
And Art was trying to create like a Chicano Motown, and he almost pulled it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost. But, you know, those are interesting times for us too, because a lot of guys stayed in the industry and went to work, not so much as musicians, but as A&R. And
Yeah, like Mario Panacqua went on to work with all kinds of people.
yeah. And so it was a great education, I think, for a lot of us. Like I said, I was doing commercials. I had never done commercials before, you know, and what was involved in that? That was all '70s stuff too, you know, but it was great doing the stuff for Steve Allen. I mean, I never thought I'd be doing stuff like that, you know, and I never thought I'd be writing as much as I've written over the years as well, you know, and I think it was a nurturing. The '70s were a time of nurturing, I think for a lot of us.
And by then we were in our early 20s. You know, we were teenagers in the 60s. We were young men. I want to mention that Max Ubias of the Romancers, he had a group called Macondo with Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of us had major label stuff going on in the 70s.
Yeah, yeah. And Max is still around. He's still writing. He's still doing stuff, as far as I know. But the 70s, like I say, I think it was an interesting time for us. Gave us a sense of direction, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, where we might have got stuck, you know, had we not persevered.
That's right. Well, I should mention too, in 71, I was signed to Lou Adler, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Mamas and the Papas, Carole King, you know, and I had the Wrecking Crew, Hal Blaine and Joe Osborne on some drums. I had Mary Clayton and Darlene Love on background vocals.
Yeah.
It was a big time situation, you know, in 71, I was only 21. 72 Capitol records, 2 singles, including I'm Brown, 73 and 4 A&M records. So, you know, we were right there, man. Major labels.
Yeah, we didn't get the
Promotion.
turn.
No promotion.
You know, same thing.
No payoff.
God's children had basically dissolved, but we still had the contract with Uni, right? So I had to go in there and finish some stuff. You know, I mean, I would have never picked Put Your Head on My Shoulder as a song. I mean, yeah. So, you know, we were stifled. And I think that's why things just dissolved.
And like I mentioned at the Grammys is that, you know, most record companies, they didn't know what to do with us, who we were. They didn't believe we could sell in New England or in the South or in Iowa. We're a regional local thing. Plus, they didn't understand if we were Mexican or American and put them in the Latin division. So very few of us got any serious promotion. I never got any.
Exactly.
Elijah was another great band from
great horn band.
Montebello, made a great masterpiece album called Elijah, United Artists, never got promoted. It's fantastic.
Let's say about the RCA thing, you know, big label, but maybe they weren't for us. They had
Little Ray had a good relationship with Columbia, right? And never quite.
I say it just the suits didn't understand us, you know.
And then the late 70s, you know, you had Los Illegals with A&M and some of the punk groups, you know. So, but again, they didn't.
Yeah, we kind of figured A&M would have been more simpatico towards us because of Herb Alpert and what he was doing. Yeah. But it just turned out, you know, as B. Mitchell Reed kind of threw something at us one day at the Rose Bowl when we were doing a concert. He says, I get you guys now. I get you. The Midnighters, 8 Jew boys impersonating Mexicans. And Romeo looked at him and said, no, that's Herb Alpert. You know, because that's really what it was. You know, Herb Alpert was making a career and a fortune off of imitating
the mariachi trumpet type.
Mariachi, you know, with a little twist on it, right? A little modern twist, but everything was the Tijuana Taxi and the Lonely Bull. You know, those type of things.
It led to him owning A&M Records and becoming a billionaire probably by now.
Man, amazingly, you know, successful. Yeah. You know. And
I was honored in '83. He recorded one of my songs, which was very cool. You know, a Pre-Columbian Dream. Yeah, that was very cool. Yeah. But they sold their publishing empire for like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, of course.
They owned all the Stax Volt stuff. They owned the Beach Boys catalog.
Serious?
They had
wow.
Not to mention their record company, but their publishing.
Yeah, amazing.
So they own Knock on Wood and all that stuff in the Midnight Hour, all that stuff.
No kidding. Wow. Wow. Hey, you know, that's where the money's at.
Yeah, publishing, right?
Publishing, bro.
So anyway, man, I don't know what else to say, but man, it's been great. And I'm so happy that you were involved in that Grammy thing, man. It was a beautiful thing. And couldn't have been a better person on there. I'm so happy you were there. And there was a great camaraderie that night too, you know, with all of us. Yeah. And the crowd.
Well, you know, it's something to aspire to. And then there we find ourselves right in the thick of it, you know, and it's just amazing, man, the professionalism of everyone.
That's the other thing that, you know, here we are at our age and, you know, we're so much better than we ever were, you know, just because people get old, they think, we have, I've got 50 years of experience since I'm Brown.
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
50 years of experience since the Midnighters of learning our craft of playing instruments, writing songs. So we're better than ever, so.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes through. Look at, we're honored to be working with other artists as well, that they would call us to
Mhm.
either write or sing, on their projects. And that's an amazing thing.
So it
to
sounds like in
this
some ways
day.
we're just beginning again, man. We're just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sky's the
So
limit.
it isn't a forgotten village anymore.
No, man.
LA, I think, I'm hoping the project that we're working on, and David Hidalgo was involved in it,
Mhm.
called Forgotten Village. That's our working title right now.
Cool.
And we're writing songs about our era,
Great.
what it's like, what the scene was like.
Fantastic.
And so we're hoping that somebody will pick it up. It's sort of like an eclectic street opera, if you will,
Nice.
So maybe we could do something like Louis Perez's Evangeline.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. When you did that
Pick a
concert.
song or two and turn it into a drama,
Right. Well, that was the other time we performed together at that
Yeah.
thing, at that event. It
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah.
Just you and me with the same backup band.
Evangeline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it was a good play.
Gorgeous stuff.
Inspiring, yeah.
Man, thanks, Mark,
Thank you, man. And
so much.
I'll let you know when this is up, and I appreciate it, and look forward to our next encounter, and hopefully we can do another show together.
Amen. You guys stay healthy, stay blessed.
Okay, man. Bless you too.
Adios.